So I guess Trump is not playing around, is he? He's decided he's going to send a message to the world and start dropping bombs.
You know, I always say when something like this happens or some other big event happens, I say, this we know about. What scares me is what we don't know about that's also going on. Yeah,
that's a good point. But I think he wants the world to know about this stuff because he's sending a message.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, this has never been used before. It's the mother of all bombs. It's specifically used to burst through underground tunnels.
Mm-hmm.
And North Korea has a lot of underground tunnels. So that's...
Good point, yeah.
He's really doing this. I mean, yes, he's fighting ISIS, which he said he was going to do. He said he was going to bomb the you-know-what out of ISIS.
Yeah.
So he's doing that. But it's sending a message to Russia and North Korea like, oh, yeah, this is what we can do, and we're not afraid to do it now.
I heard on Fox, I think the last hour newscast, that it was tested here in Florida years ago.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think that's, where they developed it and everything. Yeah, it's so big.
How big is it?
They have to drop it off of a cargo plane.
Yes.
They have to, it's not like a regular missile. It's literally they have to, push it out of a cargo plane and have a parachute. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I am your host, Michael Yaffee, the voice of reason in a world that is beyond reason. And we have a lot to get to in the show today. We're going to talk a little bit more about Trump dropping that bomb later and the latest with his military activities. Also, there's a dust-up in the Trump president administration between Bannon and Jared Kushner. So I'm going to be the voice of reason through all of that. We'll get to that. I'm going to do a new segment later in this hour called, I don't know if I like this name yet. Might have to change it, but it's called Beyond Reason Political Discourse. How our political discourse in so many areas of this country has just gotten way too beyond reason. And, of course, I have to play Keith Olbermann. If we're going to go that route, then I have to use Keith Olbermann as an example. So he has something new out today, which is just, it's very entertaining and laughable and funny. So we'll go through that. And in the next hour, there's some stuff we're going to talk about with the United Airlines fiasco. Basically, what I want to talk about there is now people are blaming capitalism. This whole United Airlines thing, it's the fault of capitalism. It's why people hate capitalism.
Because of the great divide between the haves and the have-nots?
Not quite.
Okay.
It's because the airlines are trying to make a profit, but there's a whole bunch of things wrong with that narrative, so we'll talk about that.
I'll be listening next hour.
And then, good. I'm really glad you're not going anywhere after the first hour. And, of course, free college tuition. Well, I should put that in air quotes. Quote, unquote, free college tuition coming to New York. Hillary Clinton talked about it, and Governor Cuomo there talked about it. And so we have, what is it? Sanders Clinton. Let's see. Santa Clinton. There we go. So we have Santa Clinton and Cuomo Claus. How about that? Cuomo Claus coming to New York. So there's a bunch of stuff we're going to get to. By the way, that is Tom Benson producing. How are you, Tom?
I'm fine. Great. Good to be here. Beautiful day today.
All right. Good stuff.
Can this weather continue, please?
Yeah. Not for long, unfortunately. Yeah. Okay. The first thing I want to get to today, though, is something that a friend of mine actually pointed out to me that I did not know. It's been going around for about a week or so. And there is a guy out there by the name of Dr. Willie Parker. And he is making the argument that abortion is actually pro-life. Pro-life of the woman, of course, is what he's saying. And he's saying that abortion rights are a moral imperative, especially for Christians. So he's saying that if you're a Christian, that Jesus would want you to be for abortion. Yes, he has a new book out that's called Life's Work, A Moral Argument for Choice. And as you could probably imagine, I have a lot of problems with things he's saying. So I found an interview with him on The Daily Show. And we're going to go through it. And it's, he's a very calm guy. He's not bombastic. He's not in your face. So it seems probably more appealing to a lot of people. And it probably could persuade a lot of people. But what he is saying is incredibly dangerous, actually, for society. Not just because of the fact he's pro-abortion, but other things he's saying as well. Now, I always make a caveat here when I talk about abortion. When I talk against abortion, I know that there might be people listening who have had abortions in the past. I have people very close to me who have had abortions. I'm not condemning you to hell or something because you had an abortion. But I am saying what you did is wrong. And I'm not going to defend the act of something that is very, very wrong. That doesn't mean no one's beyond redemption. It doesn't mean God can't forgive you even for that. But that being said, it is very wrong for our society for many reasons that we're going to get to. But I wanted to get to this interview with him on The Daily Show. And, we'll just start. So it's Dr. Willie Parker on The Daily Show with Trevor Noah. And we're just going to go through it, and here's how it starts.
Before we get into really everything that's in the book, just give somebody who has no clue, what is it like for a woman who is trying to have an abortion in the Deep South, places like Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi?
Okay. If you're not familiar with all of the barriers that are in place, the laws that have been put into place, that even though abortion remains legal based on the Roe decision, there have been lots of hurdles placed in the path of women. Right. Things like waiting periods. In Alabama, it's a 48-hour waiting period. Once you decide to have an abortion, in Louisiana, it's 72 hours. In Mississippi, 24. So there are long waiting periods. There are financial barriers. Those are just the institutionalized things. There's the stigma and the shame. Women are made to feel that they're doing something immoral by choosing their lives over the ambitions that other people have for them.
Stop right there. So he said, it's begun how dangerous this kind of thinking is. He says, well, the social stigma against them because they're choosing their lives over the sensitivities of other people and what other people are placing against them. No, you're choosing your life over the actual life of another human being. That's what you're doing. It's very different than just saying, well, these are just religious sensitivities of other people. No. You are literally choosing your own life as a woman when you have an abortion over the life of another human being that's growing inside of you. That's what's happening. Let's not act like we're just trying to ruin the lives of women. And I'm going to continue on with that point in a little bit, but the interview continues on here.
If someone were to counter and say, why are you in such a hurry? Why not have a waiting period? Why not have 24 hours or 48 or 72 hours or any amount of time to wait on? What would your response be to those people?
Well, it sounds good, like it passes the common sense test, but it's not informed by the reality. There's not a woman that I know who doesn't say that when she pees on that stick and it's positive, she says, I'm pregnant, oh great, or I'm pregnant, oh shit. And so as a result, women have to, being forced to wait to indulge somebody else's sensitivities, is to say that we don't trust women with their important decisions.
Okay, stop right there. So many things wrong. Once again, he goes through that whole thing of where we're forcing them to wait to impose someone else's sensitivities. No, we're trying to get them to wait to talk them out of killing a child inside of them. That's why. And I understand, yes, there are those times that women have unexpected pregnancies, and they might think at first, what am I going to do? But a lot of times, even later on, they say, I want to have this kid because it's what's best for the kid. It's what's best for me. So to say they automatically make that decision right away, no, that's not true. It's not reality. The waiting period is a very good thing. And, locally here, there's something called the Crisis Pregnancy Center that my church supports a lot. And you take advantage of that waiting period, and they really try to tell people the other options out there other than having an abortion. And they try to help them through the process, which is what the church should do. That's what a Christian should be doing. But once again, what he's doing, and this is what really bothers me about all of this, is he's making the case that, well, he's really pro-life of the woman. When you say that, you're basically saying, well, that woman is now a victim of her baby. How do moms feel about that out there? You're a victim, a slave of your child. And that you can no longer have a life in a lot of cases because you're having a child. No, actually, in most cases, your life will be better off because you have that child. And of course, there's the argument as well that it takes away personal responsibility of the woman who chose to have sex and got pregnant because of that. And there are options to not get pregnant. The interview continues on here.
And I just beg to differ.
You talk about in your book how it took you 13 years coming from a very religious background to change how you viewed a woman's right to choose. Why and how did you change your mind?
Well, I've always been pro-life, but what I mean by pro-life of the woman. I've never been opposed to a woman making that decision, but I was conflicted because I wasn't clear about what it meant to me personally to provide that care.
Right.
So I had to think about my religious understanding and my religious conviction a little bit differently. So I think pro-life is a misnomer for people who are against abortion. People who are opposed to abortion are pro-fetus. I'm pro-life. I'm pro-life of the woman. And you can't have more of an interest in a pregnancy that a woman is carrying than you have in the woman herself.
Okay, stop right there. So this is the common thing that they do now. Because that baby is inside the woman, it's no longer a living thing. It's a fetus. And they never talk about when that ends. I would bet he does late-term abortions too. I don't know. But it's amazing how that few inches from inside the birth canal to outside the birth canal changes it from a fetus to a baby. So we're not pro-life, even though there's a ton of evidence that it is a life. We're just pro-fetus. And then he makes the case once again that, well, he's pro-life of the woman, saying that that woman cannot have a life if she has a baby. That, once again, promotes the narrative that these mothers are victims of their babies. That's a very dangerous narrative. And where does that end? Because if they're victims of their babies, when they have the baby, does that mean, oh, well, I'm a slave to my baby? So does that mean we can kill it after it's been born? Because it's such an inconvenience? It's ruining the life of the woman, of the mother? There's a lot of mothers out there I think would be insulted by that. Okay, he continues on here.
Now,
oh, they're cheering about killing babies.
In the past 6 years, there have been over 300 abortion restrictions that have been enacted by states. This year alone, there have been at least 46 anti-abortion bills that have been introduced or are pending in about 14 states. What's really interesting is you have compared this, the control over women's bodies, to slaveries, which to many people would be a bombastic term. Why would you say that?
I think if you've never lived with your back to the wall, it would be really hard for you to understand what it's like to have the most essential aspect of your being, the ability to make decisions about your life, to have hopes and aspirations and dreams, and to have that controlled by someone else.
Wow.
I, as a man, will never face an unplanned pregnancy, but I feel like I'm in the same position
Wrong.
that Abraham Lincoln was when someone asked him, why did you free the slaves? There are many reasons the Civil War was fought, but I like it when he said that as I would not be a slave, so I will not be a master. As a man, I refuse to participate in a system that would deny women the same agency and the same right to make decisions about their lives that I have as a man.
Okay, stop right there. So many things wrong with that. One, the man is usually involved in the pregnancy. And if the woman decides to have the baby, the man is legally obligated to help take care of that child. So the man doesn't get a choice either, and the other way around, which, is fine. They should be obligated to take care of the child. So many things wrong with what he said there. Once again, he goes that a woman is a slave to that child. So the child that is growing inside of her doesn't. Now, he talked about rights. The essential right of your being, the right to make choices is what he said. What about the choice of the baby in the womb? The essential right of your being is to live, to be alive. And you're taking away that right of the child because you don't want to be inconvenienced in your life, and you don't want to take responsibility for the choices you made. That's the case a lot of times here as well. The mother, in a lot of cases, unless it's rape or something, I understand that, but that's very, very, very small percentage of abortions in this country. The mother doesn't want to take responsibility for what she did, getting pregnant. And so we say, well, that's her right now to choose. And that's the essential right of her being. We take away the right of the baby so we can give her the quote-unquote right to choose, because if she has the baby, she will be a slave to that child. Is this not beyond reason here? What's going on? The logic that is being pushed here? 407-916-5400. Text to 23680. We'll finish the interview after the break, and we have a lot more to get to in today's show. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Michael Yaffee. We'll be right back.
You want to listen to Beyond Reason Radio live on your smartphone? Download the Beyond Reason Radio app now. Available in the Google Play or Apple App Stores.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Michael Yaffee. We've been talking about this guy, Dr. Willie Parker, who says it's the Christian thing to do to provide abortions and to allow abortion. Yeah. So it looks like I have a special guest calling in right now who I know pretty well on this subject. I actually mentioned our church earlier. This is David in Winter Garden, I believe. Is this Pastor David? Yes.
Hey, Michael.
This is my pastor of Emmaus Church in Winter Garden, which I go to.
Yeah, how are you? I'm listening to the show, driving in my truck, and just thought I'd call in and comment if I could.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And I know you're very passionate about this, and we've had personal conversations about this and how you see you deal with trying to stop abortion locally here.
Yeah, I work with a ministry, Choices Women's Clinic, and one of the things that Choices does is what you were saying. They have a program called Healing Grace, where women that have had abortions, it devastates them emotionally, and it stays with them for their entire lives. I mean, Healing Grace helps them heal from the pain of their abortion and finding forgiveness in Christ and all of those things. And we actually have a memorial service at the end of Healing Grace where the women write letters and things like that to their children. They name their children that they've aborted, and they find forgiveness, and they read these letters. And I mean, it is just it's the most powerful thing that I've ever been involved in. And one of the things that they always say is, I wish someone would have said to me, please don't do this. There are other options. You don't have to do this. But everyone surrounding them was telling them, oh, it's the easy way out. Just go ahead and do it. Get rid of it, and you can move on with your life. But that's not the case. I mean, to the woman, they regret it. And then I'm down at the abortion clinic on late term day, which is Wednesdays, at the Orlando Women's Clinic. And women are walking in there, showing they're 6 months pregnant.
Yeah.
And, I'll talk to them, and they'll say, when I left my house this morning, I said, God, if you don't want me to do this, have someone stop me, have someone say something to me, put someone in my path. And 2 to 3 women a day, 7 days a week, turn around and leave. And
wow.
So it's a fantastic. Anybody that's ever kept their baby that I've ever talked to has never regretted it. I've never met a woman yet that has regretted keeping her baby.
Really?
But every woman I've ever talked to about abortion has regretted having the abortion. So waiting periods, and you have to get a sonogram, which 70 to 80% of women, once they see the sonogram that are abortion-minded, they change their mind and keep their baby. So, all of these things that you're talking about, and this man, I didn't even know who he was. I just heard in my truck, I heard him talking, and I was thinking, who is this, and what in the world? Everything he's saying is absolutely wrong.
Yeah, and he's trying to make. And I'm talking with Pastor David Netzorg of Emmaus Church in Winter Garden, the church that I go to and play drums at. I know a lot of you know I play drums. When you hear him say that, and we're talking about his name's Dr. Willie Parker. He has a book out called Wife's Work, and he makes the argument that being pro-abortion is actually pro-wife of the woman, he says, which I think is an insult to a lot of mothers, because a lot of mothers out there don't feel like they're victims of their children, obviously. But what do you think about when he makes the argument that it's the Christian thing to do to allow abortion?
Well, human beings are made in the image and likeness of God.
Right.
Hold on one second. Sorry, I'm getting a call. Can you still hear me, Michael?
Yes, I can still hear.
Human beings are made in the image and likeness of God, and to snuff that out is the wrong. It's murder.
Right.
I mean, these babies they're being born over at Winnie Palmer, the same age as they're being killed at Orlando Women's Center.
Wow. That's a great point.
Yeah, I think it's murder. I think it's death. I think it's horrific. And 9 times out of 10, it's just inconvenient, because the women tell me why they're going in there. I already have 2 kids. I'm in college. I don't want to. And one of the things that our ministry does is, hey, do you need help with, finances? Do you need help with rent? Do you need help with medical care? Do you need help? What do you need help with? Do you need help with adoption? It really gives them choices, right? You can parent, you can adopt your child out to a good family, or you can have an abortion. I mean, those are your 3 options.
Right.
I don't know why so many people are hell bent on choosing the abortion option when there are other options that are available. I don't know why people get so angry, and they get angry at me and at this ministry for helping women keep their babies. And it's one thing if you want to be pro-choice, but don't be pro-death.
Right.
I probably sound pretty passionate right now, because this is something.
Yeah. I know you are, and before I let you go, can you talk about the ministry again? What the ministry is called, if people want to get involved themselves, how they can do that, and so forth.
Yeah, it's Choices Women's Center. I'm sorry, it's Choices Women's Clinic. We're an actual medical clinic. I'm on the board of directors, and they do sonograms. They help the women all the way through the pregnancy to do STD testing and other things. And like I say, they provide help for women who need housing, or help with housing, or with doctors, or whatever it is. We even have a doctor who's a volunteer staff, and it's on Choices Women's Clinic on West Colonial Drive in Orlando. And yes, we need volunteers at the center, because women come in there and they're scared. And, it's a crisis pregnancy center, because these are crisis pregnancies. And listen, we understand that. Girls are in college. I mean, most abortions happen when a girl's in college. She's in college. She gets pregnant. A lot of girls and guys in college are promiscuous. And then she's like, oh, I can't tell my parents, or I got to finish school. How am I going to do this with a baby? And so anyway, we help a lot of those women to find ways to go ahead and parent. And every last one of them thanks us that chooses life. I mean, it's just, it's a beautiful, beautiful ministry. And we can always use donations, of course. It's just all through donations. So I don't know what the website is, but I'm sure if you Google Choices Women's Clinic, it'll come up.
Well, Pastor David, I really appreciate you calling in and giving us this information. Pastor David Netzorg, and happy Easter as well. It's coming up.
Yes, Michael, he is risen.
Indeed. Thank you, Pastor David. I mentioned our church earlier, and he's heavily, as he said, heavily involved in that and very passionate about it. And he's exactly right. And I've talked to him about this before personally, but he had said some things there that I didn't realize and made great points about how these women who choose life don't regret it. And, another point to be made, too, is I bet those babies that are alive now because those women chose life probably don't regret the decision their mom made as well. I've never met anyone who said, man, I wish I was aborted. So 407-916-5400, text to 23680. We're going to finish playing the interview with Dr. Willie Parker after the break. We have a lot more to get to on the show today. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Michael Yaffee. We'll be right back.
Download the iHeartRadio app and catch the Beyond Reason Radio podcast.
Come on. Laptops, MP3 players, cameras, video games, cell phones. In times like these, schools can become a shopping mall for thieves. Got it. Don't become a victim of crime. Leave your valuable stuff at home, and if you do have to bring them to school, keep them with you. Write down their serial numbers, and don't flash expensive items around. Be smart. If you have something cool, there's a good chance someone else will want it too. Keep cash and ATM cards in a secure place, and never give anyone your PIN number. And don't leave your school bag lying around where it can become a temptation to someone else. If you have something stolen, report the situation immediately. The sooner you tell someone, the better the chance you'll get it back. Visit ncpc.org to learn more about how to prevent school theft. That's ncpc.org. A message from the U.S. Department of Justice, National Crime Prevention Council, and the Ad Council.
Attention, this is an investor notice. Are you interested in making some extra cash buying real estate tax liens? Then listen to this. The Government Tax Lien Network is offering a free tax lien kit which contains 2 DVDs and a step-by-step report that will show you how to earn guaranteed returns between 15 and 35% yearly, which is completely secured by the government. They'll even show you how to do this inside your own retirement accounts. So if you're looking to become a real estate investor without risk, then call 1-800-403-3696 now to get your free tax lien kit. Then get ready to buy tax liens for pennies on the dollar and buy houses for as low as $500, all from your home with little or no money, working only 5 to 10 hours per week. Call 800-403-3696 right now to get your free tax lien kit, plus 2 free tickets to a live training event and a free $20 Visa gift card just for attending. Call 800-403-3696. That's 800-403-3696 for your free tax lien kit now. Individual results may vary.
UCF football season tickets are now on sale. This year features 7 home games, including Georgia Tech and the Warren I-4 versus UCF. Explore the new stadium amenities and club sections, including on-field cabanas at WeRiseAndConquer.com. Season ticket options start as low as $99. Charge on.
For more information about contests on News Radio 102.5 WFLA, go to 1025WFLA.com/rules.
In 2016, 84% of all new cancer drugs approved for use in the U.S. were first studied in clinical trials with Florida cancer specialist participation. This is just one example of the world-class care you'll find at any of our nearly 100 locations throughout the state. Online at flcancer.com. Florida Cancer Specialists, the most advanced treatment close to home.
This is Orlando's Smart Talk Radio. Beyond Reason Radio continues now.
So this is the new narrative now by some in the left that, because pro-lifers, they made that narrative. We're pro-life, you're just pro-choice. And they don't like us using the term pro-life, so they want to steal the term pro-life and say, well, we're pro-life of the woman, because I guess a woman can't have a life if they have a child. And they're victims of their babies, even though they're the ones who chose to have sex, to get pregnant in the first place. So the idea that they're victims of their children, they're slaves of their children, that is what he is saying here. When I say he, we've been playing an interview with Dr. Willie Parker. He was on The Daily Show. He has a new book out called Life's Work, and I think it's very dangerous thinking. And, if you're a slave of your child, of your baby in your womb, You can be a slave of your child once the baby's born. Do we just get rid of it then? It's really sick when you think about it. So we played some of the interview earlier. If you've missed any of the shows so far, you can catch the podcast of the show anywhere podcasts are available. We are on until 9 p.m. tonight, and I have a lot more to get to. I will get to Trump stuff, political stuff, the United Airlines stuff. We'll get to all of that, but I felt like this was really important, and I wanted to go through this. So let's hear the rest of the interview here with Dr. Willie Parker. Yes, clapping for killing babies. Yeah, lovely.
You obviously face a lot of opposition taking this stance. Traveling around, helping women who don't have access to abortions, women who are forced to travel to other states. The president said if a woman under Roe, or if they change the laws, is in a state where they don't allow abortion, then she can just travel to another state. Why is this such a big issue?
Well, the problem with that is that people in this country, under our Constitution, everyone should have equal access and equal protection under the law. So that means that one state's not free to impose its responsibility to ensure the health of its citizens to another state. Mm-hmm. The bottom line is nobody's health or aspirations should depend on their zip code. And if you say that a woman can just simply go to another state, that sounds nice, but it's not informed by the reality that men and women face hurdles. And if the clinics are 500 miles away, it might as well be 1,000,000 miles away. Or if a woman doesn't have the resources to travel, men and women don't have the resources to travel in-state, let alone going to another state. So I think it's a very callous statement.
Okay, stop right there. This is... It's just sick. Not only does he not understand life, but he doesn't understand the Constitution and equal rights under the law. But he talks about how, well, we have equal rights under the law and everyone should have access to choices in their life. And he said your zip code shouldn't matter whether you have the access or not. Okay, I would expand that. How about whether you're inside or outside the womb shouldn't matter if you have access to life? So everyone should have the choice and access to choices and to things that help them live. Unless you're inside of a womb, then you should be killed if you're an inconvenience, is basically what he's saying there. Is that not, am I not right on that? It's disgusting. Not only that, but healthcare is not a right, for one. And y'all have everyone has access, but it doesn't mean it's just wrong. If it's murder, then that's why it would be outlawed. But let's continue on here.
Say that it's almost like Marie Antoinette, just let them eat cake. It's callous.
It's callous, and it doesn't take into account...
Sorry, the truth is callous.
...realities of the situation that many women are in. You spoke earlier today about why on a day like today, and this day every single year has significant importance to you. Why is that?
Well, it occurred to me, Trevor, that this is April 3rd, the day before my book launch. And when I was told that the book would be launching on April 4th, there's a tab set in my heart around the fact that that was the day that Dr. Martin Luther King was assassinated. So it struck me that tonight, 49 years ago, was Dr. King's last night on earth. For me, what that means is that I like to imagine that I was the little kid living in Alabama who he had hopes and aspirations for, that my dreams wouldn't be determined by the color of my skin. And so this book, my career, is really a recognition of the vitality of the movement that he gave his life for.
So your dreams can't be determined by the color of your skin, but they can be determined whether you're inside or outside the womb.
And tie in the name of Dr. Martin Luther King to validate your position?
Yeah.
You know, come on.
Yeah, no.
I really wonder what Dr. King would have thought of all this.
Yeah, well, his niece, Alveda King, is against it.
Sure.
Very strongly. I mean, most pastors in the country are. There's not many people other than this guy, making the claim that it's the Christian thing to do. But, and he talks about opportunity there. You know, Dr. King gave us all opportunity. So we all can have opportunities no matter the color of our skin. You know, he's a kid. I have a kid and I can have opportunities. So we all have opportunities unless you're in the womb. And then you don't. then you're an inconvenience. Then you're I don't know, you treat them as a slave. Or as Obama said, you're a punishment. You know, if you get pregnant, the baby's a punishment. I don't want my kids to be punished with a baby. Remember when Obama said that?
Yeah.
It's sick. I mean, it really is. And it's all because we don't want to take personal responsibility. You know, if the women are victims of anything, they're victims of a society that has taught them that this is okay. And they're victims of a society that has made sleeping around and promiscuous sex with multiple partners okay. And they've been grown up in a society that constantly teaches them that's okay. If they're victims of anything, it's that. But they're not victims of their baby. It's sick. And not only that, but I get people when I bring this up, and this is an argument used by the left all the time. I bring this up, and people say, well, I thought you were for small government. You know, this is something Tommy Lahren said before, remember? They would say, I thought you were for small government. Why do you want the government to tell women what to do with their bodies? I believe one of the roles of government is to protect life. Is it not? So that argument doesn't work because we do believe the government has a role to protect your right, which is to live. And to say that just because someone's inside the womb, they don't have the right is ridiculous. So they throw that around. So if we're small government, we should believe that you have the right to murder as well. Is that the argument that leftists are making now? It's a stupid argument. And they make it constantly. I hear it all the time. Someone on my Facebook did it yesterday. And it's just tired, old argument. So don't buy into this lie here. And this is dangerous thinking, I'm telling you, because we go down this road where some life is just an inconvenience. We talked about, I don't know, it was last week or a couple weeks ago, how someone who was born disabled, well, they don't deserve to live, or they shouldn't live because they've, inconvenienced the mother or whatever. A wrongful birth.
Mm-hmm.
And where does this lead?
And where do you draw the line?
Yeah, and they constantly want to make, move that line. It happens in everything. Happens in everything. All right. So I think I'm going to do, in the last segment, we're going to end with some Beyond Reason political discourse. And, of course, we'll use Keith Olbermann. What this guy said was Beyond Reason, Dr. Willie Parker political discourse, but Keith Olbermann might be worse. He has a message for the president, and it's quite laughable. So we'll go through that. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Michael Yaffee. We'll be right back.
Download the iHeartRadio app and catch the Beyond Reason Radio podcast. The conscience in your ear telling you the difference between right and wrong. Yaffee is back on the air.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. This is another edition of Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Michael Yaffee, the voice of reason in a world that is beyond reason. We are doing the show till 9 p.m. tonight. If you're listening to the live show, you can call 407-916-5400 or text to 23680. Make sure if you miss any of the show to check out the podcast, pretty much anywhere podcasts are available. I know many of you are finding it on Podcast Addict, which is a new podcast outlet that a lot of people like. So it's on there as well. But pretty much anywhere you go to BeyondReasonRadio.com or download the Beyond Reason Radio app. If you did miss the first part of the show, I would definitely check it out because we talked about it in a very important subject. And so we'll get to that. So in this last segment here, we'll get to something I think is... I need to find like a clever intro for this or something. But I'm calling it, for right now, I'm calling it Beyond Reason Political Discourse. Because we're getting to a point in this country where we cannot have reasonable discussions, reasonable debates on anything. And I know some people think, I'm not saying you can't have fun, you can't be entertaining a sign, but it's just getting ridiculous at times. And this girl disagrees with me on which part? On the abortion thing? We have a caller. Okay. Interesting. Let's take a call here. Isabel in Orlando. You have a call disagreeing with me on abortion. Go ahead.
Hi, Yaffee. Have you noticed that all the clips that you have, and also including you, are guys, are men? Where you don't bring somebody that speaks about that they are not regretting on doing an abortion or something like that, that is a woman.
The person who introduced me to this story is a woman, and she writes for the Daily Wire, and she often writes about pro-life stuff. In fact, most people that I know that are pro-life and very passionate about it are women. And in fact, when you look at the stats, there are actually more women who are pro-life than men.
Because so far what I have heard are men opinions, and that is kind of biased.
Why is that biased? This guy is doing abortions, and I was responding to what he was saying. So my opinion doesn't count because I'm not a woman?
No, the thing is that you want to be able to feel what is being totally scared when something like that is happening, and when you have some limited options. So
okay, but if I get a girl pregnant and she decides to have the child, I'm responsible to help take care of it, aren't I?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So men don't have a say in this then? What's your point?
Yeah, but usually men they don't take care of that. And they leave most of that responsibility to the women. And if you notice, our society is breaking down just because we have a broken family.
Yeah, I agree with that. And you know why we have broken families, other than the crummy welfare system? We have broken families because we've taught it's okay to have promiscuous sex with multiple partners before marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think women think that's okay? Because one of the reasons is because if they get pregnant, well, they can have an abortion. So that's a less incentive to them. That just gives them more incentive to have sex. Is it not?
Yeah. Well, my opinion is that I would like to hear some comments, but from women, people that went already through that stage. So I never done that, and for myself, I don't agree with abortion, but it will be nice to hear from women that have suffered or that have gone through
I agree.
that. You
I
know
agree.
what I mean?
Yeah. And
Instead of men to men that they don't fully understand what is being scared.
I understand, Isabel. You're right at one point. I can never understand what it is to be pregnant. Okay, that's very true. I cannot understand, and I will never understand. But there's a lot of things in life that I cannot understand as a man. But it doesn't mean we have the right to kill a baby. Now, I will make the point that my Pastor David Netzorg, when he called, he made the point that he talks to women and mothers all the time. And they tell him that they are so glad they decided to have the child. He's never had anyone say, I wish I would have had the abortion at his crisis pregnancy center. So very interesting stuff. We only have a couple minutes here, but maybe we'll get to the Keith Olbermann thing in the next hour. We have a lot to get to in the show, actually, because we're going to get into some Trump stuff in the next hour in terms of he decided to drop the mother of all bombs on ISIS. So he's kind of keeping his promise there in terms of he was going to bomb the you-know-what out of ISIS. There's actually also an interesting take about United Airlines. And this should have been kind of predictable. I should have seen this coming. But there was somebody who was making this argument that United Airlines and that whole situation is the reason why people hate capitalism. And that this is the result of capitalism. and deregulation, which is completely absurd. And I'll just make the point now that it's amazing to me how, what are they, the big problems, some of the big problems in our country they blame capitalism for. Healthcare, student loans, housing, the banking crisis and the housing crisis, and now airlines.
While they're wearing their smartwatches, working with their tablets, and wearing $300 pairs of shoes.
Well, exactly. But what are all those things I named? What do they have in common? They're all highly regulated by the government,
right?
And highly subsidized by the government. The government is more involved in those things than. And you talked about their watches and other things. What are the most successful? Some of the most successful startups in the last 20 years. Well, there are places like PayPal and Amazon and Google and things online. Well, why do you think that is? Because the internet's not highly regulated. It's very unregulated. They actually have the chance to try new things through capitalism to put new things in place. So this whole idea that it's capitalism's fault, it's the free market's fault, even though if it weren't for the free market, we wouldn't have the convenience of air travel like we do today, is just beyond reason. So we'll get to that and a lot more stuff. We have Hillary Claus and Cuomo Claus promoting free tuition, another thing that they blame capitalism on, which is really the government's fault. So very important first hour. If you missed any of the first hour, please go and listen to the podcast anywhere podcasts are available, or go to beyondreasonradio.com. Send me a friend request on Facebook, or follow me on Twitter at BeyondReasonR. We have one more hour to go, and we'll be right back. I look inside of myself. Oh, well, I found some. So the mother of all bombs, you gotta love the name. I mean, it's kind of cool. The mother of all bombs. The military has just dropped what they call the mother of all bombs. It's the largest non-nuclear bomb on an ISIS tunnel complex in eastern Afghanistan on Thursday. And, well, good. That's what I gotta say. Good. We've actually had this bomb for a while. It has not been used. It was not used under Obama, and it's being used now. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Michael Yaffee, the voice of reason in a world that is beyond reason. We are on till 9 p.m. tonight. We have a lot more to get to. And Trump dropping this bomb, sending a message. It seems like he's not really playing around, with our enemies. And he said he was going to bomb ISIS. And he did it. Now he's doing it in Afghanistan, but he did it. And actually, well, a little information on this bomb. It's called the GBU-43B bomb. It's a 21,000-pound conventional bomb. Just to give you a little comparison, those Tomahawks that he struck on the Syrian air base were about 1,000 pounds. So this is a big bomb, and it's meant to have so much explosion force that it can get underground and destroy tunnels. I heard an expert on MSNBC earlier talking about how it's not one of those bombs that's meant to cause a lot of damage with shrapnel. It's a bomb that's meant to have a strong enough explosion force to get underground, like they said, and cause problems in the tunnels. And it's also being guided by GPS with precision accuracy. So it's good stuff. I mean, I can't really complain with Trump doing this. And this is one of those things where, the Trump base is really upset at Trump for what he did in Syria. We'll get to some of that in a little bit. But they can't be too upset about him doing this, because this was against ISIS, and Trump said he was going to do this against ISIS. And he is. But, I mean, we all know this is really about sending a message, right? just like the other attack was. This is about sending a message. Now, Trump was asked about this military strike with this bomb, and this is what he said.
Very, very proud of the people. Really another successful job. We're very, very proud of our military. Just like we're proud of the folks in this room, we are so proud of our military, and it was another successful event.
Did you authorize it, sir?
Everybody knows exactly what happened, and what I do is I authorize my military. We have the greatest military in the world, and they've done a job as usual. So we have given them total authorization, and that's what they're doing. And frankly, that's why they've been so successful lately. If you look at what's happened over the last 8 weeks and compare that really to what's happened over the last 8 years, you'll see there's a tremendous difference. So we have incredible leaders in the military, and we have incredible military, and we are very proud of them, and this was another very, very successful mission.
Well, there's no doubt he's pro-military. He said it many times. Now, of course, he had to have that little dig at Obama. Obama never used this, or we're going to use this. Now, from what I understand, from what I heard earlier, they used it against ISIS, but it was also a test as well to see the effectiveness of it in a situation like that, so maybe it could be used in other places. North Korea. Oh, sorry. I'll clear my throat there. It got a little stuck. Yeah, North Korea has a lot of tunnels, but you know that a lot of this is sending a message to North Korea. So, I really have no problem with this. We have to show this kind of strength when it comes to this kind of stuff. Now, there's a little bit of a division, though, going on in the White House, apparently, and it's over stuff like this, over his Syria airstrike. Now you have Trump, who's kind of going back a little bit on NATO. I talked about that a little bit in yesterday's show. Trump said NATO is obsolete because they don't fight terrorism, and now he's saying they're not obsolete because he has made them fight terrorism. It's actually not true, okay? I know a lot of Trump supporters wanted to use that argument. It's not true. NATO has been fighting terrorism for years. They were in Afghanistan, and they were the primary force in Afghanistan for a while. They fought terrorism. That doesn't mean they can't do a better job. Doesn't mean they can't do more. But, to say that, they're obsolete, and, now they're great. He's doing this because he needs them. And now he also went back. He was going to call China a currency manipulator. He decided not to do that because, they're not manipulating the currency anymore, so it's all good. That was used as a bargaining chip to get them to act against North Korea. We all know he needs China now to deal with North Korea. But there's a lot of arguments that this has to do with the whole division now in the White House between two people specifically, and that's Jared Kushner and Steve Bannon. And I actually had debated Bud on the morning show on WFLA on the station this morning because he loves Steve Bannon. He wants Steve Bannon to stay in the White House.
Ain't going to happen.
Oh, you think he's gone?
Oh,
you think they're going to get rid of him, huh?
Hey, anytime you choose between friend or acquaintance and family, you're going to go with family.
Yeah, that's true. And the Democrats, and I'm going to get to this point, all these points in a sec, but the Democrats, they hate Kushner now. Trump's son-in-law, and they don't like that they've given Kushner.
Bannon supposedly doesn't like Kushner because he considers him a Democrat in sheep's clothing.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
That's what's so ironic about all of this, is the Democrats hate Kushner. They don't like that Trump's giving him all this authority and giving him all this responsibility, and that Ivanka's in there getting all this responsibility. And I'm thinking to myself, you guys should probably shut up, because you understand that Ivanka and Jared Kushner are lifelong Democrats and promote a lot of Democrat policies. They were the ones that were big on the paid maternity leave policy that Trump was pushing in the campaign.
Yeah.
That's a big Democrat thing.
What makes a difference if you get advice from Ivanka or her husband, or say Valerie Jarrett? What's the difference?
Well, they think Kushner's unqualified, even though apparently he did a lot of good work in the campaign in terms of getting the
guy is worth $750 million. He's 34. Come on.
Yeah, they're upset because they think it's like a family coup of the government or something. I don't know. But so much of that is so overblown. And the basic reason why he's siding with Kushner now, and I'll tell you this, I mean, I have no inside information. This is just from an outside observation standpoint, is because all the leaks that were coming out of the administration, all the debacles that were coming out of the administration dealing with healthcare and all that other stuff, he doesn't know who to trust. So he's going to go to family because he knows he can trust his family.
Yeah. And 50 years ago, we didn't care about the Kennedys.
Yeah. Well, they're saying the difference is Robert Kennedy had to be confirmed by the Senate, which I understand. But if you read a lot of the history of that, he gave Bobby Kennedy a lot more responsibility as the administration went on. Like, he came in as that one role, but he had a lot more responsibilities because he trusted him, because he was family.
Right, exactly.
And, he saw him as loyal. I mean, it's kind of inevitable. I understand people don't like it, but I think the Democrats are kind of shooting themselves in the foot because this is the one guy who can actually turn Trump more centrist, turn Trump more Democrat, because Trump's been a lifelong Democrat for most of his career. So this is the one guy, and him and Ivanka are doing that, and the Democrats are complaining about it. I think it's just funny that they're shooting themselves in the foot.
Yeah.
But in terms of Steve Bannon, I don't like him. I told Bud this. I don't like Steve Bannon, but I don't like Jared Kushner because he's a he's a Democrat. I don't know where he's going to take Trump. And because, Bud kind of made the argument, well, would you rather have him go to Kushner? And I'm like, two things can be true at the same time. I can not like Bannon and also not like Kushner. And then he's saying, well, who should he get advice from? And I said, Mike Pence. If he really wants to get advice from somebody in his administration and really get things done, he should go to Mike Pence. That should be his most loyal advisor, in my opinion. But the main reason I don't like Steve Bannon, and I always tell a lot of conservatives to be wary of Steve Bannon, is because, for one, he was the guy who really pushed back against the Freedom Caucus. So when the Freedom Caucus was standing up for actually repealing Obamacare, he was the guy, and it was reported that he basically went to the Freedom Caucus and said, there was no discussion, there was no debate, you have no choice but for this bill.
He's the one that pushed the bill vote, and they weren't ready for a vote.
Yeah. And this is where a lot of the fallout began between Bannon and Trump and some other things as well. But Bannon is, if you think Bannon's some kind of great small government conservative, he's not. Okay? He's a nationalist populist. It's very well known. He turned Breitbart into a nationalist populist site. And actually, I have some audio here from someone I respect, Ben Shapiro, who used to work for Breitbart and basically left Breitbart because of Bannon. And he knows Bannon. And this is what he said. This was actually during the Trump campaign before Trump was elected. But this is what he said about Steve Bannon.
Sure, I don't like Steve. I think he's a jerk. But, as far as it being sour grapes with Breitbart, I left Breitbart at the time because I said exactly what they are, and now they are what they are. I mean, I said they were Trump Pravda. I said that they threw their own reporter under the bus. I left a very lucrative job. I mean, I was being paid a fair bit of money to write one piece a day for them, essentially. And I left that job because I wasn't going to stand with a site that decided it was more important to kiss the ass of a presidential candidate than to defend its own reporters. And listen, I'm not going to pretend that there isn't this sort of nastiness that goes on the left side of the aisle, but being on the right, I always thought that the right was better than this. I mean, there are lots of outlets on the left that proclaim that they're objective. George Stephanopoulos at ABC pretends to be objective. CNN reporters vote largely Democrat. They pretend to be objective. But I thought that on the right, at least if you're going to be pro a candidate, just say you're pro the candidate. Don't pussyfoot around. And that's what Breitbart did. And, took the readership that was not pro-Trump and converted them to pro-Trump. So congratulations to Steve Bannon on doing a wonderful job of hollowing out the Breitbart brand, destroying Breitbart's name, and making Breitbart a lot of traffic and getting himself a position of power.
So there you go. Obviously, he's not a fan, and there's a few other people that had to leave Breitbart because of what Bannon was doing to the site. He's not a small government guy, okay? But the biggest thing that really has a red flag to me was what he did to the Freedom Caucus, because I strongly supported what the Freedom Caucus was doing. So you now have this inner power struggle, and Washington Post has a piece on this today about how Bannon, was riding high. They don't know exactly. He's afraid about keeping his job. There's been a lot of arguments in there as well. And, of course, if Bannon leaves, what is Breitbart going to start doing to Trump? That's why Trump maybe hasn't let him go yet. But so there's a lot of interesting stuff there. And I really think, personally, if Trump wanted to have a real trusted advisor in the White House, he would go to someone like Mike Pence or even like Rand Paul or Ted Cruz. He has been talking to Rand Paul a lot. Now, he's going to disagree with Rand Paul on foreign policy, obviously, but there are better advisors he can go to.
If you're a Trump fan, who are you going to side on with, Trump or Breitbart? I think most of them will stay with Trump. I don't think Breitbart would be that much of a threat.
Well, yeah, well, I think you're right. And, this is the thing, too. Trump is not bent on ideology. He's not driven by ideology.
Right.
And I was told by a lot of Trump supporters in the primary season, in the campaign season, that was one of Trump's assets, that he is practical, that he reacts to specific situations at the time, that he is not ideological, that he can look at things and be a businessman and be flexible. Well, that's what happens when you elect someone like that. That's what's going to happen. They're going to change their mind, like he has done on Syria, like he has done on NATO, like he has done on China. That's what's going to happen. That's the kind of person he is. So you can't get too upset at Trump for being who we all knew he was. Not only that, but I was not surprised by a lot of these moves, because Trump, I said in the primary, he is not some kind of hard right-wing conservative. That's why it's always amazed me that the left hates him so much and tries to cast him as that, because he's really not. He has been more of a centrist Bill Clinton type Democrat most of his life. So he's doing moves similar to Bill Clinton and other types like that, and I'm supposed to be shocked? Now, there's a couple of things. I mean, the China currency thing's a little shocking because that's one of the things he's very passionate about, but he's doing that to make a deal with China. That's why he's doing it. There's a couple of things where Trump's not going to budge on. Immigration, although he did budge a little bit on that, too. He doesn't want to get rid of the Dream Act and all that stuff. But on trade and all that stuff, he's very passionate about that. But this whole idea that Trump's some kind of big right-wing conservative and now he's betraying his base, it's like, I told you this was going to happen. He's been a centrist Democrat most of his life, and now he's being influenced by centrist Democrats in the White House with Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump. That's what's happening. Anyone agree or disagree with me? 407-916-5400. Text to 23680. I want to talk about this United stuff and a piece I found in the National Review that was talking about, and I talked about earlier, about how some people are saying United and what that whole situation is capitalism's fault. Yeah, this is Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Michael Yaffee. We'll be right back.
Listen to the latest episodes of Beyond Reason. Download the podcast at Spreaker.com, the place where we talk faith, culture, and politics. Beyond Reason Radio continues.
So I just saw a video on the TV screen of Assad, the dictator of Syria. And he's saying now, oh, we didn't do the chemical attacks. Who knows who did the chemical attacks? Okay, but I was just watching it, and I was thinking to myself, doesn't he just look like a villain? Like doesn't he look like a villain on like an Indiana Jones movie or something? Like if I were in Hollywood and I wanted to cast an evil villain, I think I would cast him. I think he just fits that so perfectly.
Yeah, he was saying all the pictures were staged.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's very convenient.
Jeez.
Yeah, I know. This is Beyond Reason Radio. By the way, I got a text that came in that said Trump nominated Gorsuch. He's a great conservative now. That's a good point. That was a very, very good conservative move. Trump has done a lot of good conservative things. And that goes to the point that he's not ideological. He'll do some great conservative things, and people he's put in place have been really good conservatives. Cutting the size of government and regulations, that's great. But he's not driven by ideology. So when you have someone like that, there's going to be things you like about him and some things you don't like about him. So I found this piece in the National Review, and the title threw me off guard. And it's by Kevin Williamson. And he said, well, this is the title. It says, United is why people hate capitalism. And I thought, okay, why would someone in the National Review say that? Well, he's actually not saying that himself. He's making the point that someone else says that. He actually points out that as bad as airlines are, it remains possible to offer stupid criticism of them as Eric Levitz does in New York. Levitz sings a familiar lament, the one about deregulation. Among other things, he complains that certain state capitals do not have their own airports, and so on and so forth. He complains about deregulation and basically is saying that it's capitalism's fault. He says, this is what Levitz is quoted, he says, control of the airline industry from experts answerable to the public to corporate boardrooms and Wall Street. It's typical leftist stuff. We have lots of important services purportedly controlled by experts answered to the public, which he makes the point in here in the walls in the National Review. And it's an excellent point. He basically says, yes, we have a lot of services that are public services, and they all stink. So to blame capitalism and to say, well, if it was controlled by the public, and when you say public, you mean government. That's what he means. If it was controlled by the government, it'd be so much better. It would be utopia in the airlines. No. No. In fact, it used to be very heavily regulated, and it was awful.
Name one thing the government is doing efficiently.
I almost said military, but there's a lot of times they don't do that efficiently either.
Right. I mean, look how much they spend on toilet seat covers. That's not efficient.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, he makes the point in this article in the National Review. He said public schools are still terrible. The LAPD is still corrupt. The New York City subways still smell like hobo. He says control by experts answerable to the public sounds lovely to progressive ears, but nobody bothers to ask how well that has worked.
Yeah.
Because you take the accountability of the marketplace out. The thing is, private companies are answerable to the public. United is answerable to the public. They are, because right now they have a massive PR damage, so they're losing value in their stock. There's a lot of people who want to boycott, and there's going to be competition from other airlines to beat them.
Sure.
So they are answerable to the public. So this whole idea that because you're not government run means you're not answerable to the public is absurd.
I also read once recently where some airline is advertising, we beat our competitors, we don't beat our customers.
Well, that was Southwest.
Yeah,
but that was a parody.
Oh,
Southwest didn't really come out with that. But yeah, that's funny. And speaking of Southwest, I actually watched a documentary on the founder and CEO of Southwest and on Southwest in general, Herb Kelleher. And it talked about in that how Southwest was a small airline, only was in Texas to 3 different airports, and how tough it was for them to get off the ground and tough it was for them to compete and do well because there was so much government regulation that the government used to control what they had to charge. So they really couldn't, compete price-wise. And you look at the real profitable, successful airlines like Southwest and JetBlue, they came after the deregulation. So this whole idea that capitalism is at fault, they just want to blame business because business wants to make a profit. And yes, businesses and big businesses can act badly. Yes, that happens. It happens a lot. But that's why you leave the free market alone for competition to get in. He makes the point here in the National Review. He says, in fact, a great deal of what is wrong with American air travel has nothing to do with deregulation and price competition, which have worked excellently. He says a round-trip New York City-LA flight costs about 100 hours of average wage labor in the early 1960s, back when Don Draper was flirting with all those Pan Am stewardesses. Yeah. That trip now costs about 17 hours of average wage labor. Rather, what's wrong has to do with, let me find the words, experts answerable to the public. Those being the buffoons who run our local airport authorities, the buffoons in charge of air traffic control, and the thieving, dope, and porn smuggling Transportation Security Administration. And he makes a point at the beginning of the article that I made earlier. He says, capitalism is unpopular for 4 reasons. Banks, health insurance companies, cable providers, and airlines. And I would add, college tuition, even though that's not, a lot of those are public run. But he goes, these all have something in common. They're all heavily regulated by the federal government. And usually the solution by these people is to regulate them even more. I was talking about Southwest, and the former CEO, his whole mantra was democratization of the skies is what he used to call it. He wanted to make it cheaper so more people would be able to fly. But he had to really fight with the government to be able to do that. And it wasn't until government regulation was kicked out of the way that Southwest was really able to become popular, really able to make it affordable for more and more people in this country to fly. So let's not use this whole United thing to promote socialism. You really want socialized air travel? Can you imagine the disaster that would be? Could you imagine if Lynx was running our airlines? I mean, no. I mean, come on. 407-916-5400, text to 23680. This brings me to my next subject, which we will get into shortly, which is about free college tuition. Now, the government screwed that up, just like they screw up the airlines. So the solution is always to add more government, of course. And in New York State, they passed this bill. They call it a scholarship program, which it's really not. And I'll tell you why. That gives basically free college tuition to people under a certain income. And, of course, Hillary Clinton loves it. So we'll hear from her. She came out of the shadows to talk about it. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Michael Yaffee. We'll be right back.
If you like Beyond Reason Radio, well, make sure to show it by liking the Facebook page at facebook.com/Beyond Reason Radio. Your safe space for conservative thought, not for political correctness. Yaffee is back right now.
Won't somebody please think of the children?
Here comes Santa Claus, right down Santa Claus.
Yes! We have Cuomo Claus and Clinton Claus, or Hillary Claus, in New York State now. Yes, they're there because they have to provide gifts for everybody. Free college. Oh. Bernie Sanders was big on that, too. He was in New York State when all this was going on, too, with this bill for basically free college tuition for anyone making under $125,000. And they signed the bill earlier this week, and well, let's hear from Cuomo Claus, the governor of New York, who I think is Cuomo Claus. Here it is.
We should make college affordable. College should be accessible. College should be free for middle-class families in this nation, so every middle-class child can go to college. And it is smart. Look, 70 years ago.
Oh, it's smart.
We made a decision as a society that people needed high school. And some people said, oh, you're being frivolous. You don't need a high school education. But society said, yes, we do. If you want to continue to grow, you want to continue to educate and prosper, we need high school. And we had free public high school for everyone. And that was a bold step. Well, today, my friends, college is what high school was 70 years ago.
So, where does this end, by the way? Because, well, we need free high school, so we give them free high school. Well, now we need free college, so we'll give them free college. Well, now we need free master's degree, so we'll give them that. Where does it end? Oh, then we need we'll just provide them jobs. And what they want is more socialism. And it always starts with something, and it grows, and it grows, and it grows, and it grows, and it never ends until the government's just in control of everything. I know that sounds extreme, but wait, seriously. Because once all this is put in place, and then everybody has a college diploma, which is already happening because the government is already heavily involved in colleges, more people have college degrees than should. So college degrees don't mean as much, which Cuomo actually pointed out, and a lot of this is because of government funding, so it doesn't mean anything anymore. So who cares now? So I have to get a college degree? Who cares? And in fact, some of the most successful people in this country, don't have college degrees. But this whole idea that we pushed this idea that everyone should go to college, it's just made things a lot worse.
Well, you talk about the haves and the have-nots. If you had something like free college tuition, you'd have a bigger disparity between the two because the have-nots who are going to school for free are beholden to the government.
Oh, yeah. And not only that, but...
And the government may even tell them, this is what you'll study, this is where you'll go, and this is what you'll do and where you live after you get done with school.
And, you know, they're going to have to... Yeah, they're going to have to do some of that because it's going to cost too much money. Because the prices are going to skyrocket like they already have. And what they'll have to do is cut costs. So how are they going to cut costs? The quality of education will be cut. All the extra programs in colleges will be cut. And they will not let in as many students. So not nearly as many students will be accepted. So this whole idea that everyone needs a college education so you have government pay for it, they have that in European countries, and it's a lot harder to get into those colleges because of it. And they want to bring that here. In fact, but what they don't understand is the government helped create this problem. You know, Obama nationalized the student loan program in 2010, adding it to the health care bill. And student loan debt on the federal government's books has shot up by 125% since 2008. You can literally look with since we started heavily subsidizing college in this country, student loan debt and the price of colleges have skyrocketed because that's what happens when you subsidize. When you heavily subsidize these things, that's what happens. Happens every time. And we're just going to make the problem even worse. Now, some people might think I'm a hypocrite because I went to UCF, got a college degree there. And by the way, that college degree would have meant nothing if I didn't use it to intern here and actually get experience. So without even internships and experience, college degrees the paper doesn't necessarily mean anything. But I was able to go on the Bright Futures Scholarship. Now, the Bright Futures Scholarship is a Florida thing. It's done by the state. But the difference is, though, is one, it's based on your grades. So I had to get good grades to get it. And I had the 75%, so I still had to pay 25% out of pocket. You know, I didn't have all these extra, and I didn't take out any student loans. So I paid for it myself with a job, believe it or not. I know, right? I paid for it myself. But, yeah, so college student loan, I did that, didn't have any student loans, had Bright Futures. But that's paid for mostly by the Florida Lottery, so it's not just direct taxpayer money. But even when you look at that, even when you look at Bright Futures is in trouble because college tuition prices still keep going up and they can't cover it anymore with Bright Futures. So Bright Futures, the scholarship, doesn't cover what it did when I went to school. And that's what happens every time we implement this stuff.
You know, when I was in the Army and lived in the military town, every time the military got a raise, your landlord raised your rent.
Oh, really?
And that's exactly what happens with colleges.
It's exactly what happens in anything like this.
Colleges are getting college students are getting more and more money. The colleges and the professors and the teachers all want to cut, so they all ask for pay raises. Exactly. Everything goes up.
Well, yeah, it's exactly right because you've taken the accountability of the marketplace out of it. I talked about before all these problems. You know, there's a great piece that I found in Market Watch. It's actually a couple of years old. It's from 2015, but it was Sheila Bair. She was talking in the House Financial Services Committee, actually a couple of years before that, but she was talking about in this piece in Market Watch that she said what happened is despite the good intentions of these government student loan programs, it backfired. And what she's talking about is this is very similar to the housing boom and bust, because the housing boom was in big part caused by government subsidies and government intervention. And it might have been done for good intentions, but what happens is it creates this negative effect to it. And when that happens, prices go up, and then we had the housing bust. And she's made the point that we are making the same mistake now when it comes to college tuition. And I made the point earlier. All these places in our economy where the price is going up and up and up, well, it's college tuition, government involvement, healthcare, massive government involvement, housing, massive government involvement, the banking system, massive government involvement. And it goes on and on and on. What do we expect? So and also Hillary Clinton was there, and I wanted to play this cut from Hillary Clinton, who was actually there, who actually spoke after Governor Cuomo. This is Hillary Claus talking about it as well.
Paying for college should not defer or destroy dreams. And with this Excelsior Scholarship Program, it will not. Now, I'm hoping, too, that the Congress will come to its senses.
Oh, dear.
And will understand.
Oh, no.
We don't need to be building walls. We need to be building bridges.
Oh, God.
And the best bridge to the future is a good education, my friends. So let's go make it official and watch as the governor signs the Excelsior Scholarship legislation.
Oh, man.
You know how close we were to hearing that for 4 years in the White House?
You know, when I hear something like that, I can't blame Bill for wandering.
Oh, gosh, my ears. But now, of course, the state doing it's not good enough. Now we have to get the federal government just free college tuition. Clinton clause. Why do we think it's the government's job to do all this stuff? Especially since every time they do it, they screw it up. 407-916-5400. Text to 23680. So now we have time in the last segment to finally get to the Keith Olbermann thing. I've been looking forward to getting through some Beyond Reason political discourse, and we'll get to that next. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Michael Yaffee. We'll be right back.
Subscribe to the Beyond Reason podcast today on your Stitcher app and hear the voice of reason anytime. Your voice of truth in a world of fake news. Beyond Reason Radio continues right now.
All right. So, yesterday I played some Beyond Reason political discourse from an interview on CNN, and I think I might make it a regular thing. I haven't come up with a catchy intro or anything for it. There's got to be something out there, but there's nothing more beyond reason in terms of political conversation, political discourse, than when you hear Keith Olbermann talk. Now, the only reason I saw this, I don't actually go out looking for what Keith Olbermann had to say, but I have this app on my phone. It's called the Google Play Newsstand. And there's a little widget on your phone, and it goes through a bunch of news stories through a bunch of different sources. And it popped up there from the Huffington Post, and they're praising it, and they think it's great. And I'm just like, oh, dear. And he made a point to say the word jackass 67 times in this. So if you're keeping count, try to keep count. Because he has some choice words for President Trump. You can imagine he doesn't like him. And it's so much of it. It's just, this guy is insane. I think they need to get the white coats and, go ahead and get him. Go ahead and, commit him. I think it might be time. Might be a little past time. Now, there are a couple of things he's right about on this, though, but it's just, most of it's just crazy town. Crazy town. I don't know. Just imagine if I did my show like this. But here, let's listen. Let's go through this. It's kind of long, and we'll stop as we're going through it. So here it is.
And now a message to the President of the United States.
Oh, yes, starts all official.
You are a jackass. There have been many words to describe you during these first 2.5 months of this human waste treatment plant of an administration of yours, and I have used most of them. Demagogue, liar, idiot, despot, simpleton, traitor, schmuck, buck passer, puppet, lunatic, toddler, fascist, jerk, schmo, dope, dipstick, lame brain.
Oh, he's
but
so
after prolonged
clever.
Consideration, you are a jackass. You are President Jackass. Who else but a jackass?
Hold on, stop right there. Did you notice what he said? After careful consideration. He's been thinking about this hard, Tom Benson. Careful consideration, he thinks Trump is a He's just crazy. This is crazy. I love it. Okay, continue on.
Children of Syria and have, as your first reaction, to blame your predecessor when your predecessor did exactly what you urged him to do at least 37 different times just on Twitter.
Okay, stop right there. He is kind of right about that. Not going to lie. Trump did kind of say you shouldn't attack Syria a bunch of times, and then he did with that. But, I mean, you can still blame Obama because Obama totally screwed up the Middle East. He screwed up Iraq. He screwed up Syria. Screwed up Iran. I mean, come on. Screwed up Libya. So, yeah, it's still definitely Obama's fault. But, of course, Oberman back then, I'm sure he supported Obama striking Syria back then. So it just matters which president strikes back then. But go ahead.
But a jackass would have as your second reaction to do nothing.
I've already lost
stick
count.
To the policy
jackass.
that most benefits Russia. Who else but a jackass would have as your third reaction to put the international balance of power at risk in case our troops happen to kill a Russian in Syria? Because your daughter, the Schlockmeister one, who tries to turn everything she can touch into a marketing opportunity, she reportedly ran to Daddy and said she was heartbroken and you should thus go kill some people.
Okay, stop right there. I'm very confused, actually, because he goes, the second option is you decided, only a jackass would decide to do nothing and help Russia in this situation. So he's mad that Trump first wanted to do nothing. And then he says the third option, only a jackass would do something and interfere with our relationship
with Russia. Power. Yeah.
With Russia. Wait, I thought you were just mad at him for not doing it, but now you're mad at, I just, what? All right, go ahead.
Who else but a jackass would have as your fourth reaction to warn Russia that our missiles were coming, knowing Russia would likely warn Syria, and then may even have put the lives of American service personnel at risk so they could run a farcical stunt attack on an airbase with instructions that they should not try to destroy the runways from which the Syrian jets carrying the sarin gas that killed those kids took off. Who else but a jackass
Okay,
would
stop
have...
right there. In fact, there was actually pretty extensive damage. The Pentagon actually released pictures and said it was pretty extensive damage. But, of course, he told Russia because he didn't want that international situation that you said you were worried about in the beginning of this rant.
Yeah.
I'm very confused, but go ahead.
As your fifth reaction, when America finally woke up to the nauseating reality that you put our people's lives at risk to run a phony photo op missile strike that didn't strike much of anything, to tweet that everybody knows when you bomb an airbase, you never bomb the runways because they're so easy to fix. You are a jackass. You are President Jackass.
What is he, like 50?
Who else but a jackass would rely on his nitwit son-in-law to do anything on behalf of the American government when he just happened to fill out the forms for the top secret security clearance he doesn't deserve in a million years, and he came to question 20
I certainly wouldn't give it to you. That's for sure.
which asks about substantial meetings with foreign governments, and he forgot to mention his meetings with the Russian ambassador to the United States. Who else but a jackass would trot out this Kushner, this triumph of double nepotism after
nepotism?
To borrow some names from Louise Mensch's
He's wearing a suit in Iraq, and everyone's totally upset about this.
Somehow acting
for
in the
some
name
reason.
of our democracy, wearing flax Fifth Avenue and a pair of Jamokli sunglasses.
What do you wear
Who else but
most
a
of the time?
jackass would say how many weeks he'd been in office and get it wrong by a margin of 18%? Who else but a jackass would accuse Susan Rice and Barack Obama and the intelligence community of crimes without one shred of evidence among them?
There's a ton of evidence.
That's still to be determined, I think, officially.
It's
Vladimir goddamned Putin. Who else but a jackass would claim that 11...
He defends Putin. You know, Trump did defend Putin a lot in the past, but he sure isn't defending him now, if you haven't noticed. He's not too happy with Putin now.
No.
But go ahead.
Term Democratic congressman from Baltimore had told you, you will go down as one of the great presidents in the history of our country, and leave off the part where he said that to perhaps become great, first you'd have to stop dividing and harming the country and start truly representing everybody. You are a jackass. Who else but a jackass would reaccommodate a man like Steve Bannon, not because he has no business being involved in running anything more important than a popsicle stand, but because you reportedly were embarrassed that Saturday Night Live made him look like your boss, and you weren't, quoting of all places Fox News, happy with the way Bannon had been grabbing the limelight.
Okay, there's probably actually a lot of truth to that part. Although really that's not what's happening. And I talked about this earlier in the show. He wants to get rid of Steve Bannon because the fallout with all of Bannon's mistakes. I mean, really. But continue on.
Who else but a jackass would let Homeland Security try to trample the First Amendment to unmask one of his critics on Twitter? Who else but a jackass?
Wait. Didn't the Obama administration unmask a ton of American citizens just for political purposes? I thought. Never mind. Go ahead.
Disaster during the campaign after the Access Hollywood sexual assault tape, yet still publicly defend a serial sexual harasser like your pal Bill O'Reilly and claim he'd done nothing wrong. Who else but a jackass would accuse a New York Times reporter of being the PR person for Hillary Clinton? And when she replies, mostly by you, though, you reply, no, mostly by a lot of people, like you're 12 freaking years old.
Okay, stop right there. Who is acting like the 12-year-old in this situation? Yeah. Trump or Keith Olbermann? Yeah. And not only that, but I lost track.
Where did you record this? I mean, what was this from? A podcast, or is he?
It's a little video web video he does for GQ of all places.
GQ. Oh boy,
I know. Half the stuff he talks about, he does himself.
Little narcissism going on there.
It's just. Oh, it's very entertaining, though.
Just goes to show you why he can't get a job now, and he can't keep a job even if he got one.
I mean, there's reports that he harassed his employees. So he was talking about Bill O'Reilly. His employees hated him. He couldn't keep a job. So, yeah. This is Beyond Reason Radio. Hope you had a little bit of fun with that. I hope you guys have a good weekend, a good Easter weekend, and I will be back next week. Check out the podcast if you miss any of the show, and I'll catch you guys next time.